Hello and welcome to a special Valentine's Day version of Denver's Perfect 10's live stream. I'm Chris Hinds. I serve on Denver City Council's District 10. Hopefully we're live and hopefully you can hear me. If you can't hear me, or if we're not live, please let us know. In addition to February 14th being Valentine's Day, it is also Winter Bike to Work Day. So I don't know if you've heard, but today is Bike to Work Day. I'm so glad that all of you who are streaming live today or watching this live stream bike to work, right? Didn't you? It was kind of interesting. So they have a website that's all over the world. I think it's winterbiketoworkday.org. And number 1 and number 2 were Denver and Boulder. And then a whole bunch of other whole bunch of other cities from other countries. And then the last I checked, Madison, Wisconsin was the next city in the United States to be on the list, and they came in at number 28. So way to go, Colorado! Way to represent for Winter Bike to Work Day, and let's show the rest of the nation and the world what's up with multimodal transit. So anyway. So I ran on a platform of values. So I talked a lot about how we all need access to housing, transportation, and representation. So I am going to start with housing. So each week we talk about each of those buckets. Housing. This past week we had a briefing from the Group Living Advisory Committee, also known as GLAC, and and the question I am to ask is, are you like my aide Teresa, who wants to live like the Golden Girls when she retires? Is she going to retire?
Eventually.
We have no word about any sort of active retirement plans from Teresa, but eventually I'm sure she will retire. I was afraid that this was a thinly veiled comment about how she was leaving, but I guess I'm wrong. So if you are interested in a Golden Girls type lifestyle, well then GLAC is for you. Not so fun fact right now, the city of Denver has one of the most conservative and regressive rules on how many people can live in a house. And right now the city of Denver allows no more than 2 unrelated individuals and their families to live in a house at the same time. So basically, a lot of you, particularly in Capitol, are technically breaking the law. So basically what we're trying to do is community planning and development are trying to modernize our group living requirements. As income inequality continues to get worse here in Denver and in the rest of the country, more people have roommates. And so this is one of the many reasons why we're revisiting our regulations on the number of unrelated people who can live together. The recommendations aim to update and clarify language in the zoning code. It will not change, will not in all caps, change regulations that govern noise and maintenance requirements, including maintenance of properties, operation of facilities, licensing, building, fire safety, etc. So all of those requirements will remain the same. But I am not the expert on the GLAC, the Group Living Advisory Committee. Community Planning and Development is, and they're hosting 4 public open house meetings to present the recommendations that, the Group Living Advisory Committee has a bunch of recommendations, and that committee is made up of community members and others, and they would like to hear from you in one of those 4 public comment sections. So if you're interested in providing comment, go to denvergov.org/group-living for open house dates, or I'm sure you can go to your favorite search engine. I'm sure is most likely Google, and you can search for Denver Group Living Advisory Committee Open House, and that'll get to you as well. Also, this past week, the East Central Area Plan, or ECAP, closed its public comment. But there's good news. Public comment will reopen in the next few days. We've heard from several of you that that you're just now learning about the East Central Area Plan, and you want time to read the plan. And so Community Planning and Development and the District 10 office, Denver's Perfect 10, and the District 9 office are collaborating to make sure that that you have the opportunity to read the plan. So if you haven't, please read the plan and provide comments. Planners and District 10 will conduct further outreach, and the new deadline will be March 31st. So there should be plenty of opportunity to read the plan. And I would also say, although there are 270 pages in the plan, that doesn't mean that you have to read all 270 pages. You can if you want, but it's also arranged by neighborhood. So if you live, say, in Capitol Hill and you're most interested in what's happening in, say, Capitol Hill, then you can just go to that section of the plan and learn about exactly what's in your neighborhood. We actually did a pretty strong outreach effort between January 5th and February 5th because the District 10 office requested a 30-day extension. And thank you all who attended our 14 outreach meetings, and thank you all all of you who provided comments on the plan before January 5th. There were about 600 comments on the plan, and between January 5th and February 5th, an additional 1,000 comments were there on the plan. So a little bit of a pat on the back. I would pat myself on the back, but mostly it was Galia. We more than doubled the amount of comments that were in for the East Central Area Plan. Also, some of you have written in recently about Warren Church, which, if you don't know, that's immediately north of Warren Village, and so Warren Church, the St. Francis Mission was interested or is interested in changing the church and renovating and providing living arrangements for approximately 50 people. And so far, that process has been put on hold. It's going to go back to the Landmark Commission, so our Historic Preservation Commission, before it goes to the Board of Adjustments. And so if you are in North Cheeseman Park, or if you have an interest in housing and homelessness, please educate yourself a little bit on Warren Church, but also know that the process is slowed down a little bit, so you have a little bit of time to have your comments heard if you want to make them. Moving on from housing, let's talk about transportation. Again, happy Winter Bike to Work Day. Also, I don't know if you've heard, but it snowed over the last week. It snowed a lot. And so that certainly has been challenging for a lot of people. I know that our roads, people were, the Public Works, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, sorry, I'm still a little slow on the new name, Dottie, but so our Department of Transportation and Infrastructure has deployed our plows, has been a little more proactive this time. I would say it's still kind of treacherous out there, particularly in the shady areas, and even coming into work today, I had to go in the street and in bike lanes in several spots. So for all of those who stepped up, figuratively of course, maybe literally too, but and made sure that the streets, sidewalks, bike lanes, and curb ramps are clear, thank you very much for all you do. Just as a gentle reminder, it has been more than 24 hours since the last snow. So if you haven't gotten your sidewalks, that is the adjacent property owner's responsibility. So please make sure that your sidewalks have been cleared, and the way the law is read, or the way the law reads here in the city of Denver, is the snow should be cleared through the accessible path of travel. So those curb ramps, that's part of the accessible path of travel. So those are usually the last or often totally overlooked area of our sidewalk infrastructure. So a lot of times the roads will be clear, the sidewalks will be clear, but because there's this big mound of snow, or more likely at this point ice, in the curb ramps, that makes it impossible to get from the street to the sidewalk and vice versa. So people like me just go on the street, which is unsafe for everyone. So back to Winter Bike to Work Day. My office participated in the Denver Streets Partnerships Love-In in front of the office, it is in front of the office, in front of the city and county building today. And it says this morning, but it was at noon. We shared our love for all forms of transportation. In this case, it was particularly making sure that we have access to alternative forms of transportation. I believe firmly that we all deserve the freedom to get from A to B safely, regardless of how we choose to get there. I was there, so Denver's Perfect 10 was there. Lucky District 7 was also there, so thank you, President Clark, for participating, and all the team in District 7. And here in District 10, we had everyone in the office participate. We all had speaking roles, so I guess that's part of the reason why we're called Perfect 10. So we, as part of the Love-In, we had a presentation in the steps of the City County building, but we also wrote Valentines to the mayor, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, and City Council. So I guess, dear me, I would like me to focus more on alternative transportation is one of the cards that I didn't write, but wouldn't it have been funny to get a card from me to me with love. So we talked about housing and transportation. Let's touch on representation. Has anyone said that they can or cannot hear? Okay.
There's people watching.
Okay. I like to people watch too sometimes. So on to representation. Monday, the City Council voted to change breed-specific legislation in the city of Denver. That was a huge change. It was very high interest after Monday's vote, where we voted to dramatically change the way pit bulls are allowed in the city. So now pit bulls, or the three breeds that are colloquially defined as pit bulls, actually not defined as pit bulls because pit bull is not a breed, so three different breeds of dogs that had been banned in the past are now allowed. There are several requirements if you have one of those three breeds or a mix of one of those three breeds, including a registry, including you must spay or neuter your pet or the animal, and that doesn't take effect for 90 days, assuming the mayor allows it to happen. So we haven't heard yet whether the mayor is going to say yes or no, but I would say we have the vote on Monday night has already been covered by national press. ABC nationally has covered it, Washington Post, CNN has covered it. So I guess we're making waves, we're making news, and I did vote in favor of it because we know that there are pit bulls in the city. And this allows us to have those owners come out in the open and register their dogs so that we know where they are. And for sure, we have pit bulls and pit bull mixes in the city. I would say in all the years that we've had them banned, we haven't had anyone in Denver had a serious injury or fatality because of a pit bull. I think that might be misleading. Is that? Scratch that for right now. I think I want to fact check myself. But certainly we have already been quite a bit more progressive on our stance in effect. And I think that the change in law more accurately reflects that we already have pit bulls here in the city, And I think it's way better that they, if they're here, that they come, they get registered, they get spayed or neutered, and we know where they are so that we can track them. We can track the behavior of our dogs and our dog owners. Also this week, we had the psilocybin policy review panel. So if you voted to legalize magic mushrooms in Denver, or sorry, decriminalize magic mushrooms in Denver, we finally had our first public panel meeting, and I was only able to participate in a small portion of it because it was at the same time as our regular committee meeting, but I was able to go to the first part of it, and I am excited that we have people attending, we have interest, and as I mentioned in the committee meeting, I've never used magic mushrooms, but I'm interested in learning more about it, and I keep hearing more and more that scientists are studying the effects of psilocybin, and there seems to be some promising studies out there from very reputable organizations such as Johns Hopkins University. So I'm very fortunate, and I feel very lucky to be part of that panel. It is the first municipal group of its kind. This says it's in the nation. Kevin Matthews, who's the president of the review panel, said it's the first of its kind in the world. So I don't know if that, speaking of fact checking, I don't know that for certain, but I believe that we are once again being we're making waves here in the city of Denver, and those waves are reverberating throughout the U.S. and beyond. Also this week was the INC annual dinner. It was awesome to see some of my colleagues there, see a lot of the movers and shakers of the registered neighborhood organizations in the city of Denver, and there were several awards presented as well. So to all of those who received awards from the Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, congratulations. Also that evening, I think in the 2 hours that we were there, I think it's no more than 4 inches. It was it was really dicey getting to my car and then getting my car back home, but I think I'm safe. My throat has been a little scratchy the last couple of days after the dinner, so but I'm not sick yet. Okay. Also, as far as representation, last night we went to happy hour in Cherry Creek. So if you don't already know, we are we have multiple events that we're scheduling in the community, and we're rotating the different neighborhoods in which we have the event. We're also rotating the times, because some people it's more convenient for them to attend open meeting or open houses of sorts in the day, and for others it's more convenient in the evening. And so we're not only rotating throughout the various neighborhoods of District 10, but we're also having some during the day and some during happy hours, so that people who work a standard work week can also feel like they have access to their councilperson. Of course, this Facebook Live is designed to allow people access to their councilperson without even having to leave home. So pants are optional. I don't know if you're wearing pants right now or not, but you probably can't see whether I'm not wearing pants or not. But that's I am, by the way. But I think that it is important for us to have our elected officials accessible to those they represent, and so we're trying to do that in a lot of different ways, by going to RNO meetings, to having open forums in the community, to participating in community events, and this Facebook live stream. I also want to thank former Councilwoman Jeannie Robb for attending. She was there the whole time, actually. I was really fortunate and surprised to have her there. If you don't know Councilwoman Jeannie Robb, former councilwoman Jeannie Robb. She is my predecessor's predecessor. So, grand council person? I don't know if that really translates, but it was really neat. I've been very fortunate to have her perspective. She definitely, she represented Cherry Creek, and it's great to have her perspective and understanding on some of the legacy concerns and opportunities from District 10. There were also about a dozen constituents who came, and we learned that transportation into Cherry Creek is difficult and needs improvement. And as you may know, we tried to do some of that. We as a city tried to do some of that with the introduction of Chariot, but the month after that test kicked off, Chariot was closed. It was a subsidiary of Ford, and Ford got rid of Chariot nationwide. So we recognize that that's been a pain point for Cherry Creek for a while, and even more so, a pain point for the people who work in Cherry Creek but who don't live in Cherry Creek. One of the people who works at Marg's in Cherry Creek lives in Capitol Hill, and she doesn't have a car, and she said she walks back and forth, and it's very difficult on weeks like this when it's really cold, and so I can understand that the transportation difficulties to get to and from Cherry Creek are inhibiting employers in Cherry Creek from getting and retaining good staff. We also heard that the open space around Cherry Creek is underutilized, and so there were a couple comments about the Cherry Creek bike path, and if we could work to further improve the Cherry Creek bike path, and so we're looking into that as well. And we're at the end of the list. We're not at the end of the list. Guess what? We have a newsletter, except it's not called newsletter. That was the last guy. We call it Hindsights. So a little bit of a nod to my predecessor, but we're taking it to the next level because hindsights are 2020, and so we would love to have your participation in the newsletter. If you aren't already part of the newsletter, you can sign up. I think, is there a bit.ly link at the bottom? I think it's over there. No?
But there is a bit.ly link. It's not here.
Oh, so there is a bit.ly link. We're not going to tell you what it is, though. So how about this? How about once we're finished with this live stream, we can copy paste into the comments what the link is, because we would love to make sure that you can participate in the newsletter. And I think we're up to something like 12,000 people who are part of the newsletter, but we don't know how many of them are District 10 specific. So of course anyone is welcome, but we would certainly we want to make sure that everyone who is in District 10 who wants to participate in the newsletter has the opportunity to do so. So I think this is the first time in all our attempts at live streams that we'll be done before 2 o'clock. Oh, we've got 6 minutes. Do you want to see me juggle? Can I count? I don't know. But anyway, so thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Bike to Work Day. Asterisk winter. And yes, one other thing. We are closed on Monday because of President's Day. So, but I know that all of you are clamoring to attend our next City Council meeting. It won't be on Monday. We'll have a City Council meeting on Tuesday instead. So have a wonderful extended weekend if you observe President's Day or your employer. And actually, even if you or your employer don't observe President's Day, have a good weekend. All right. Take care.